are gonna go through 3 levels of the harmonic minor scale. This is for people who want to incorporate more of a Latin feel to their playing. We're gonna take it from level 1, which is pretty much a theory-free zone. We're just gonna talk about chord shapes and the notes that go along with those. All the way up to level 3, which will incorporate more of that theory talk, some scale names and numbers and all that usual stuff. Check it out. Okay, so for level 1, we're gonna start with chord tones or arpeggios. And since the tune is in A minor and then goes to E7, we are gonna use these chord shapes here. But we're not gonna play all the strings though. We're gonna start with just 3 of them. And it's gonna be, for the A minor chord, it's gonna be 7th fret on the D string. It's an A note, and then we're gonna play a 5th fret on the G string, which is a C note, and the 5th fret on the B string, which is an E note. Those 3 notes together, which you may recognize as the beginning of Stairway to Heaven. We're not gonna play that now. Those 3 notes are an A minor arpeggio. So whenever the tune is on the A minor chord, either one of those notes will work beautifully since they're part of the chord. When the tune moves to E7, we're gonna use a bit of this shape right here. This is an E7 chord on the 7th, 6th and 5th fret. Ring finger on the 7th fret, the middle finger on the 6th fret of the D string, the pinky on the 7th fret on the G string, and the index finger on the 5th fret on the B string. But we're not going to use the entire shape of that either. We're going to skip the ring finger. You have these notes, but we're going to add another note instead. And we're going to add a note on the 4th fret of the G string. So the 4 notes you're going to use for this chord is these 4 notes here. And it's 6th fret on the D string, 4th fret on G string, 7th fret on the G string, and 5th fret of the B string. And one trick that I like to think of is when you're going from the A minor here, 7th and 5th fret, you can move these 2 fingers down one fret. There you have the 2 first notes of the E7 arpeggio here. So A minor, 7th, 5th, 5th fret to E7. You go down to 7th, 4th, and then 7th and 5th. So those are the arpeggios that we're going to use for level 1, at first at least. We can just try to get our head around the most basic thing is to just play any of these 3 notes when you're on the A minor chord, and any of these 4 notes when you're on the E7 chord. I think the easiest way to start is to just play 1 note per chord. So that will mean the first note is the 7th fret on the D string, and then we're gonna move up to the 4th fret of the G string, and then 5th fret of the G string, 7th fret of the G string, and 5th fret of the B string. So there's an A minor, there's an E7. A minor, E7. We're gonna start A minor, E7, A minor, E7, A minor, E7, A minor, this note though, on the 6th fret of the D string. So let's see if we can incorporate that one. E7, A minor, E7, A minor, E7, A minor, go back now, E7, A minor, E7, A minor. Okay, so we're gonna try to level this up to play 2 notes per chord instead. And we're also gonna add 1 note. We're actually gonna add to the E7 chord, which already have more notes. But we're gonna add this F note right here on the 6th fret of the B string. So we have the 6th fret of the D string, 4th fret of G string, 7th fret of G string, 5th fret of the B string, and 6th fret of the B string. We have a lot of possibilities for the E7 here. So let's try. A minor, E7, 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 A minor, E7. So what we have here is, as I said, 2 notes per chord from the arpeggios. So we end up with 7th fret of the D string, 5th fret of the G string. That's part of the A minor chord. Then it changes to E7. So the notes for the E7 chord is 7th fret of the G string to 6th fret of the B string. Then we go back to A minor and we end up on the 5th fret of the B string, 5th fret again of the G string. Then we change to E7 and we go down to the 4th fret of the G string and 6th fret of the D string. And then it starts over again. A minor, E7, A minor, E7. Like that. So once you get the hang of this, you can experiment around with along with the backing track, which is at the end of this video, and just play around with those notes and see what happens. So I'm just gonna play around for a little bit over the backing track with these few notes and see how it sounds. Okay, it's time for level 2. So let's check out the entire scale. We actually ended up playing the entire scale in the last example, but only in a limited range of the guitar here. We actually just played on 3 strings. It goes, of course, on the rest of the strings too. So if we are to stick in the 5th position for now, for simplicity's sake, it's of course available all over the neck, but we're gonna start with this position here. And if we start from the bottom here, on the 5th fret of the E string, we have this scale. And that is, if you know your natural minor scale or Aeolian mode, you will recognize every one of those notes except one, which is of course this note, which leads up to the root note. That's the only difference with this scale from the natural minor or Aeolian mode. It's the 7th note of the scale is raised half a step. A normal minor scale is with a G note as a 7th note, but the harmonic minor raises that to a G sharp. That is the distinct sound here, which is very, I guess, oriental, for lack of a better word, and it's of course very suitable for this kind of vibe where you have a minor chord as your home bass, your tonic, and a 7th chord, dominant 7th chord as your dominant chord, of course, as opposed to having another minor chord. Say if you had a vamp or something that went from A minor to E minor, that wouldn't work with this scale as well. You could of course throw in just a little bit of flavor here and there, but I would probably recommend just using the natural minor for that vibe. But here we have a dominant 7th chord instead. So we want that note, the G sharp note, because as you can tell in this E7th chord, it's the major third of the E7th chord. On the E string, it's 5th, 7th, and 8th fret, and it's the same on the A string, 5th, 7th, 8th fret. On the D string, you have 6th fret and 7th fret. On the G string, you have 4th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret. On the B string, you have 5th fret and 6th fret. And on the E string, you have the 4th and the 5th fret. You can of course continue upwards here. 7th, 8th. If you want to go further, of course you can on all strings. This scale will work for the entire chord form here, the vamp. But the key parts are where you land, and that's something we went through on the level 1, where you land on the A minor notes, on the A minor chord, of course. Then on the E7, it's actually the rest of the notes that aren't in the A minor chord. So those notes, for instance, those are great notes for the E7 chord. Because they are very leading notes, they strongly suggest going back to A minor, because you wouldn't land on. You don't want to land on that note. You want to go back to the one of the notes from the A minor chord, and that's the whole game here. It's one home chord and one dominant chord that leads home. So you're either home or you're away from home, going back towards home. And that's why the rest of the notes of the scale is just leading back to the A minor notes. So I'm gonna play along to the backing track again and just play around a little bit and see if I can follow my own examples here and just try to land on the right notes. As you can see, it all depends on where you land. As long as you land on a strong note, on the downbeat, or thereabouts at least, it will sound fairly decent, I think. For level 3, we are gonna start using 2 notes at a time. We're gonna use note pairs, mostly consisting of thirds, but we're also gonna check out a couple of fourths, and maybe even some larger intervals than that. But we're gonna start with still using the chord tones of the A minor. So we're gonna work out of this shape to start with. You can also incorporate the open A minor shape down here and A minor shape here, which is, you might recognize that shape from the E7 chord we played here before. But if you move that down a string set, just take that shape, move them down to the thinner strings and up to the 10th, 9th and 8th fret. We'll end up with this shape, which is an A minor chord. So we're gonna start by using these shapes and just pluck. I'm gonna use my fingers here for simplicity's sake. I'm just gonna pluck 2 notes at a time and do some palm muting because I like the sound of it. It sounds kind of like a Cuban vibe. So I'm just plucking around A minor. That's nothing strange about it, I guess. A very easy thing. For the E7 chord, we're gonna use all the other notes from the scale, or you can use all the other notes, of course. So if you just start experimenting around, you can start by moving that shape down as we did before, and from there you can experiment around by finding all these other, mostly minor thirds for the E7 chord. Now the E string ringing, you really can hear the odd colors that appears, which is awesome. But what you will realize here, or what you might realize, is we're just moving minor thirds around in minor third steps like this, which means it functions as a diminished chord. And what that means is you can use all the diminished shapes that you know, like that or like that, all with an E bass, because this diminished chord is really easy to see. This is just E7 chord with a raised root, so the E moves to an F. You can move that shape around, and that is the same as on these strings. These are all notes that are from the harmonic minor scale, but not the notes from the A minor chord themselves, or itself. So you can easily start visualize what notes to play once you get your head around the diminished shapes. That's usually what I'm thinking about when I play when I want to play more than one string at a time here in this kind of context. It might take you a while to get your head around the diminished shape, because now we're really starting to move all over the neck. You can start with, you might recognize this diminished chord. It is the 6th fret on the D string, 7th fret of the G string, 6th fret of the B string, and 7th fret of the E string. If you start with this shape and move that around in minor thirds. So you can start with these closest to the 5th position here. You have the 6th and 7th fret and 3rd and 4th fret. Those are the surrounding notes of this chord, which is, I think it's easiest to start there and move around from there. You can find how they connect to the A minor chord, because if you're on the E7 and wanna really lead to the A minor with a sort of a voice leading thing, you can use this chord, because the nice voicing you hear is half steps are the best voice leading intervals. Or again, a half step on the top of the voicing. Or but here we have a whole step moving down in the on the top string. However, we have a half step here. It's the same half step as we did have here. That also leads very well, of course. The diminished and augmented chords are only they were only invented to lead to other things, which is showcased here. So I'm gonna try to play along with the backing track once again and use some note pairs this time and see what happens. There you have it, 3 different levels of the harmonic minor scale. Now go experiment with these by yourself, along with the backing track that will follow here shortly, and just experiment and see what you can come up with. There's a lot of possibilities in these scales, and you can have a lot of fun with them. So please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.